there, Merry Christmas. So glad to celebrate the birth of Jesus with you. Thank you for watching. Of course, I'd love to have you, or listening, however you're absorbing this, love to have you subscribe. We have great content on this channel. Everything from amazing interviews, some great teaching, and of course the jokes are, so spectacular. I say with a whole lot of sarcasm and tongue-in-cheek, but we're continuing a series that we started a few weeks ago, Christmas in Motion. And, we're closing in on Christmas. We're kind of probably in the thick of all of the parties and the festivities, and hopefully you've done some Christmas shopping, maybe some decorating, Christmas baking, wrapping presents, etc. Lots and lots of things, opportunities, concerts, festivities, and we're in the heart of it, in the thick of all of it. And sometimes it's fantastic, and sometimes it can be a little much. But in this series, we're talking about Jesus and Christmas in Motion, keeping Jesus as kind of central to the motion. So the first episode, we talked about Mary and Joseph in motion, working their way towards Bethlehem, working through some struggles there and miracles as well as hardships. Last week, we talked about the Magi, the wise men in motion from the Far East, making their way to Jerusalem, maybe traveling at night. They were in motion. And all of these journeys, they all took at least, for Mary and Joseph, took at least 4 days, probably a week for them. For the Magi, it took at least a couple weeks, maybe a month for them, depending on how many breaks they took. But there are other people in motion as well. And I think in this season, we are all in motion. But I think it's important for us to think about the motion and all the activity and keep in mind the purpose of it. When Mary and Joseph, we talked about being in motion so God can steer us, can direct what we're doing. We talked last week about the Magi and the wise men having a focal point. The star is their focal point. So they knew the end game. Where are we going? Where are we trying to land? And sometimes if we don't have motion, then we're stuck. We're not doing anything. If we don't have a direction, then we can just meander. But this week I want to talk about the shepherds in the field. And I always like the shepherds. And they crack me up. We read about them in Luke chapter 2. And they're also in motion, unexpected motion. And that's a little bit of a contrast with the other two examples we looked at, because Mary and Joseph were in motion, to get to Bethlehem because of Caesar Augustus' decree for the census. The Magi were in motion to find the newborn king because of the star. So they at least had some sense of purpose and setting out and going. Whereas the shepherds, it's a little bit of a shocker for them. And their motion was probably a reaction rather than kind of proactive, if you will, like the preceding weeks. The shepherds in the field, I like them because they are keeping watch over their sheep at night. And, it's an average night, right? I mean, they're all hunkered down. They have their sheep, they've got them all scooped in together. They have shepherds. There's more than one, because the shepherds and a lot of times they would come together at nighttime, mingle their flocks so that there could be greater protection, and I think too, it gave them a little time to socialize, probably light a campfire, make some dinner. I doubt they roasted a sheep because, you're not going to eat your livelihood too often, maybe once, but they're hanging out, and I think it's just an average night like any other night. And they're probably sitting around telling jokes, maybe drinking tea, something, warming their bellies, might be a little cold at night. And they're hanging out there and just kicking back, watching the stars, and probably relaxing from walking all day, and their sheep are laying down. I don't know, sheep maybe snore, I don't know. But I can imagine that they're just all chilled. And then there's an amazing angelic appearance, a miracle. And we see miracles in these stories of motion. We see the miracle of Mary's pregnancy. We see the miracle of the star for the newborn king. And now another miracle is this angelic visit, which kind of freaks out the shepherds. I mean, it's a very stark contrast to their normal evening routines. So this huge host of angels appear, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill to men, and they're like, go to Bethlehem and find the newborn laying in a manger. And so the shepherds jump up. I think they're startled. I think they're freaked out. I think they're exhilarated, excited, curious, all kinds of reactions. It's a very miraculous experience, and it kind of activates, puts them in motion. Let's get going. We got to we're highly, highly compelled to get after this. I mean, you have an angelic visit at nighttime. This is like a jump start. This is a launching pad. So they make their way into Bethlehem to find the newborn laying in a manger. And I think it's really powerful for us to think about these shepherds and their motion. It wasn't necessarily that they had set out and purpose planned, 2 or 3 days. I mean, they were activated in the moment. The spontaneous choice, spontaneous pursuit. And I think there's some real good value in the sense of some spontaneous pursuit and worship and pause to recognize Jesus, to recenter, to refocus, to say, oh, wait a second, let's stop everything, let's settle everything down, because Jesus is the central reason. This is why, this is our passion. This is why we do this season. And lest it become routine and mundane and we just go through the motions, maybe sometimes it's time to stop, make a spontaneous stop, if you will, and stop the frenzy and continue to make the motion decision to pursue and look for and worship Jesus. I think in the midst of everything we do, in all the activities, we have to remember and keep first and foremost our focus on Christ. The miracles that happen from an angelic visit, a star in the sky, miraculous pregnancy, conception, all those miracles, they're very helpful. And there's also hardships and struggles, Magi at nighttime, Mary walking when she's 9 months pregnant, the shepherds going door to door in Bethlehem. Hey, can we check out your manger? What are you doing? You're supposed to be out where are your sheep? And, some like pushback on that. And finally, they keep looking and they find the newborn laying in a manger and they choose to worship him. And I think it's very important for us in this season that we stay in motion, even when it's at nighttime, unexpected, spontaneous. But we also remember there's miracles as we stay in motion, as well as some hardships and some struggles. But ultimately, it's Jesus. It's Jesus that we're after. It's Jesus whom we love. It's Jesus whom we pursue. It's Jesus whom we worship in this Christmas season. So as you think about this, of course, I'd love for you to hit the notification bell right there. Thank you so much for subscribing. Share this with a friend, neighbor. It's really fun, good reminders of Christmas and motion and why we do all the Christmas festivities. But I'd also like you to answer this question. What do you least like about Christmas? What's your most unfavorite thing about Christmas? You're like, well, just think about it. List one thing. It can be something simple, or it might be cheesy, or it might be something really difficult, but just list that one thing in the comments. That's a fun way for us to interact a little bit. And of course, here is your fantastic joke at the end. I read this. So a father was saying this. My son Luke loves that we named our children after Star Wars characters. Luke liked it. However, my daughter Chewbacca, not so much. They named their son Luke, but their daughter Chewbacca. I think that's really funny. She didn't like it. All right, I know. Next week will be a whole lot better. Thanks again.